Hey everybody, it's episode 341 and we are back with Nathanael Clanton, and I'm excited to ask him. We got through a lot of questions before. We've even been talking pre-show about the similarities between running a business and parenting young children,
Oh
because
yeah.
you have to be able to pivot, but it's very similar to just running a business that's been going along for a long time. And now we have this COVID, or we have all this other stuff that's new. So running a business is constantly pivoting because the market changes. People need
Yes.
new widgets. People don't want the widgets you used to make, right? There's all kinds of things that go into everything we do for our customers and our clients and for ourselves even. So we're going to jump straight in, and I want to do one kind of role play with you because I think it's kind of hopefully it'll be interesting. One of the things I want to remind you guys is that there's a bunch of really cool ways for you to save money if you listen up to the very end of the commercials. You can listen to them at 2 times speed. I mean, I know I talk pretty fast, but hopefully you guys will wait to the end. All right, so we're jumping right in. You have a podcast, you have your own business, and you also have worked from home. For how long have you worked from home normally? Not like this normal.
Yeah. Normally, I've had my design business for almost 15 years, and I've worked exclusively from home for about 8 or 9 of those years. The other years have just been interspersed with different stints at agencies and other companies. But I've always had my independent business and had work from home.
Okay, so but this, and sometimes I think some people are like, oh, I've been working from home, this isn't really that different. But I think it is a little different in the respect, just like you having another kid coming in to the picture. That was a new normal as well, although you had them both at the same time, the
Yeah.
COVID and your daughter.
Oh, it's
So
crazy.
so did you think 15 years ago, you said, right?
Hmm.
15 years ago, did you think that, is your business the same today as it was 15 years ago?
No way. Am I the same? No. Our business grows as we grow. Yeah.
Okay, so did you even expect 15 years ago or even 10 years ago that you would be where you are right now in your business?
In a sense, yeah, because I always knew that I inevitably would want to be my own boss. Pretty early on in my design career, I got, the perspective and the understanding of what it's like to work for somebody else in different capacities. I worked in very small design shops where there's just 2 other people. I worked for some really, really big, corporations and some global agencies. So I kind of got to taste the gamut early on in my career, and I got to see what it would look like kind of project forward and see what it would look like, for me to pursue those different routes. And, I asked myself, is this what I want? Right? Not is this a quote unquote good career path, or is this impressive, to people? Is this what makes sense? I asked myself, is that fulfilling to me? And a lot of the paths weren't. Climbing the corporate ladder was not, even though I could have done that. Even building a large agency sounds really cool, but I didn't want to do that either.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what was it? Because I think that some people are in the exact same place as you, and I think those are, a corporate is different than building a big agency, and then
Yeah.
building a big agency is different than building a small agency,
Yeah.
or building a small business with a
Yes.
few other people. So what were things that didn't fit in corporate for you, and
Hmm.
that didn't fit for you for building a big, and what does a big agency look like to you?
Sure. I mean, you could consider 10 people a big agency, you
Okay,
know?
so let's consider, let's say 15 to
Sure.
50% person is a big agency, and a small agency is like 4 people.
Sure.
Okay, or some under 10,
Yeah.
under 8 or something, and then
Yeah.
somewhere in the middle is between the 8 and 15, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, it came down to certain things that I personally value. I really value autonomy, being able to choose my direction and pivot my direction. I value versatility, being able to do a lot of different kinds of things, work in a lot of different industries and a lot of different types of work. This was actually one big thing that steered me away from becoming an architect. Like I mentioned in our first episode, was I wanted more versatility, more adaptability and experimentation. Another thing that was really important to me was the freedom to work from home and be with my family. Family is still my number one priority, and my business and my work supports that priority. And so I already knew I never wanted to sacrifice my family in favor of the career. I think that it's really easy to make the justification that, oh, I'm doing this for my family. But then in the process, you end up sacrificing years that you can't get back. You know, you can always work more. You can always get a new position, but I can't relive my son's second year. You know, I can't relive my wife going through pregnancy and having me available during the day, right? So I knew this before I even, was married. And I just knew that the corporate structure did not really support that. Hopefully things will change after this, but just where I was, it didn't. And
was
so,
that modeled
yeah.
for you as, did you have somebody in your family or like a close adult that had
Sure.
that life before so you could kind of see?
Yeah. When I was a new designer, I have a friend mentor, because we're both. His name's John, a guy named John Schreiber. And he was my boss's boss at an agency I worked at. And we ended up bonding just in the office over personal development books, and both of us used to draw graffiti art when we were younger, and working out, and like things like outside of work. And we just like would always connect whenever we saw each other in the office. And he was at that time like the vice president of creative for the Portland branch of the office that I worked in. And then later he got promoted to being like the head of creative for the parent company that owned our agency, as well as like 17 or 18 other companies. So he's someone who was in the type of position that someone young like me might aspire to, right? And he is such a down-to-earth guy that he gave me a lot of really great advice and perspective on what really matters in life, And he was I guess just a touch point for me to be able to just observe his life and the things that he considered important. And he's very against the grain in terms of traditional corporate guy. And he actually ended up retiring early to go run his own business with his wife. They own several optometry clinics. But yeah, he retired from the corporate world eventually. But yeah, to have that influence and that perspective and see someone that had achieved so much, and he had been doing what he did. They built, him and the other guy that led the agency branch in Portland had built it from the ground up, like for 20 years. So he did it all, right? All the things that someone in my position might, want to do. And, and he just gave me a lot of really great advice that, really like family is the most important. People are important, right? All this stuff, it's not important. And he's like, listen, I think that we all give ourselves too much credit when it comes to our success. He's like, I've been very lucky. I've been very fortunate. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I remember one time in particular, I was really disappointed. I really felt like I had failed, like just as a designer and like in my career and stuff. And he picked me up one day and we just like did a workout. And he said, listen, like we're driving in the car. And he's like, listen, I could get fired from my job today. And I know that there's a dozen people whose doorstep I could show up on and they would take care of me. He's like, this doesn't define us. Our job, our position, it doesn't define us. And the relationships that we cultivate in our life are so much more important. And that really just solidified a belief in me that as great as it is to do good work, I would rather have people's names on my life resume who I've impacted on rather than brand names on my life resume.
So that's one thing I love about this, is that it helps us all to realize that maybe if we're not where we want to be right now or today, there's tons of people behind us that we can
Mm.
mentor and that we
Yeah.
can make a difference to. And if that guy hadn't just had a relationship with you, right? Like
Yeah.
just talk to you and you bonded. So it's about being available to being a
Yeah.
mentor for somebody else, as well
Yeah.
as having a mentor too.
And the way that you get the mentors be teachable. Like I approached
Mhm.
him and I built the rapport. And then that relationship came from there. Like when I worked at that agency, literally every day I would walk up to everybody in throughout the months and the year that I was working there, and I would get to know everybody and ask them where they're from and all this stuff, and I would like take notes on just the people. And he was one of the people I got to know. Like I literally just like peeked in his little door, right? And I did that when I was working at other companies, and I got to know people that were like, director of North American, blah blah blah, right? People that were much further along, and that gave me perspective on them too. So sorry to interrupt, but this is really interesting because there's contrast, right? So he was one example on the spectrum that I was like, okay, yes, I want to emulate that. And then there was other people that I met on the other end of the spectrum who were great people. They were awesome, very cool, very successful, right? But I didn't want their life because as I like just made regular conversation with them to just get to know them as a person, I'd ask them about their family, and like they didn't really get to see their family. And like
Mm.
I'm a single guy, so sure, I'm going to stay up late at the office working on a Friday night. And like I'm talking to this guy, I know that you have a 2-year-old daughter, and you're telling me you're working through the weekend. Now I know that happens sometimes, but I observe this just on a regular basis. Lots of people were divorced, and like just their relationships were not healthy, right? And so I got to see kind of the different paths that you could go on. And it helped me be able to decide the kind of path that I wanted to walk on.
I love that. So you kind of had
Yeah.
an idea. All right. So I wrote down versatility, autonomy, meaning you
Hmm.
could make your decisions, creative freedom,
Yes.
things like that.
Yes.
Family was super important and
Hmm.
allowing you to be able to work from home. Was there anything else that didn't fit with corporate life or didn't fit with bigger agency life?
I think that when we're talking about, because a lot of those kind of are addressing the corporate and the larger agency, because the bigger and bigger your agency gets, it's like not that different from a corporate
It's
job
not.
because you're working for corporations then as your clients. And the workload is sometimes even greater because then you're not like necessarily a 9 to 5. You do lots of overtime and whatnot. um, so that wasn't super attractive to me, even though like, yeah, like I'm no stranger to hard work, but I wanted to build my own thing. And I think part of me was afraid of building something and eventually feeling stuck, building
Oh,
something that maybe that was a little bit of fear of success, but like I didn't want to build a company that was so big that I had so much responsibility that I would feel like I could never walk away from it. Like the concept of golden handcuffs, where you're making really great money and you have accolades and, and title and position and these things that are not bad within themselves, but they have to be in alignment with what I ultimately value. Right. And I was just really concerned about going on a path that would kind of like lock me in to where if I ever wanted to walk away and do something that I felt was more fulfilling, that I wouldn't really be able to do that. So that was something that kind of this underlying fear of being trapped. And I think maybe a lot of entrepreneurial people can relate to that, right? And that can keep us from taking some risks. But I think that there might be a little bit of healthy, just a healthy balance there if we're self-aware enough to go, okay, there's a reason I have this fear. And so I'm going to listen to that and try to align that with values instead of responding out of fear. I can respond out of like, what am I ultimately passionate about?
all right. So where does delegation come in? Because as a solopreneur,
Yeah.
you're going into other offices and you're doing contract work or you're
Yeah.
working on a specific thing. Sometimes you're going there, sometimes you're working
Yep.
on your own,
Both. Yeah.
right? But
Yep. And
where does that happen of you? Because this is how we're able to scale our business, and maybe this is one of
yeah.
the reasons that you are never going to get bigger than just you, so
Yeah.
that you can close the door when you want to close the door.
Yeah, I think that I eventually do want to grow a company that has a team, but not a
A
design
small
business.
team. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
like a small, very agile team. And like I think agile is the key word, that if I ever was to build a team and build a small company that's larger than just myself, 'cause right now I do have projects where I expand the team based on the project. That's
Sure.
pretty common, right? You
But
hire on and
but
contract people on.
when was
Yeah.
that first project that you
Uh,
couldn't do everything on your own and that
yeah.
delegation had to come
It,
in? Because I
the
think a
first
lot of
time,
we get in that
for, yeah.
whirlwind, right?
Yep.
Of, oh, we got to do it all.
Yeah, well, it came at a time where I had to hire on another designer because I had so much work that I physically could not accomplish that. I did not have enough time. And if you want to keep your clients on a healthy deadline, healthy time frame, then you have to expand. And there's trade-offs, right? You're expanding your capacity at the expense of control. And I think that a lot of us as designers are control freaks. We love that we can fine tune designs and projects, and like there's an element of excellence in there. And we feel like maybe we hold a personal standard that goes higher than most people. And so yes, there is additional time that I had to spend investing into this younger designer. But what was really cool was then he brought ideas to the table that I didn't have, and I got to experiment with challenging him to create things, and then there's a collaboration effort, which
Mm.
is really, really satisfying. That's one of the things that you don't get when you're a person of one. You don't get to collaborate unless you're collaborating with your client. But there's something really special about collaborating with a creative person. Yeah.
Okay, so all right, so then at some point the goal for you would like to build a company. Not, and you just said not necessarily a design company. So
Yeah.
what and when do you envision this, or do you even have an idea of
I've
when?
already started it. That's front runners for me.
Okay. So
Yeah,
tell them
my
about
online
what
company.
that is.
Yeah, so front runners is more than just the podcast. It's more than just the blog. It's more than just the online courses. For the longest time in my life, I've been a multi-passionate person. I think there's a lot of people listening that can relate to that. And I felt like I had to pick just one of those
Mm.
things. But something in me believed that just wasn't the case, that there had to be an example somewhere out there of someone else doing what I wanted to do. I never found someone that was exactly doing all of the boxes that I wanted to check, but I saw people that were kind of hybrids of a few of my different passions. And that gave me just the idea that I could kind of create my own thing. So I saw people out there that had a design background that were then going into personal development, or people that had an entrepreneurial background that were going into education. So like these different things that I loved. And I said, oh, well, there's so-and-so up there, and then there's this person up here. And like, if I kind of merged together what they were doing, then it kind of gives me a rough picture of what I might want to do and what it might look like. So from all of that came Frontrunners, which is, it's still evolving what it is, but what it is right now is a community and an online education platform for creative entrepreneurs. And the concept of Frontrunners is blazing a trail into the uncharted territory of your potential. I was a runner in high school, and so that kind of gives me, this metaphor of running up front and being someone that goes before other people and making their path clear.
Mm.
Um, so I created that, and it was initially a blog, and then it grew into me writing a book, and then it grew into me um, doing email marketing, which grew into me creating a course. Multiple courses grew into me launching a podcast. So it's expanded, and I've added on new facets as I've gone, because each of those facets has been a new outlet for creation. I know this is really in alignment with our main topic, but I've added these things on as I've found like, oh, this is an outlet that I have, that needs to be like uncorked. Like I love talking, and I love writing. And so I love writing, so I'm going to blog. Or I've always wanted to write a book. I'm going to write a book. I love teaching, so I'm going to find a way to teach. I have a lot of random thoughts every day, and I love giving advice and answering questions. And so I'm going to do a podcast. So there's like these different needs inside of me that I was able to identify. And then by seeing other people's examples out there, it gave me a new idea for, a creative outlet for that need.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah.
But that's just goes to show that exact answer was not something you could have come up with, because it continues to grow and evolve.
Yes.
Right? Because that's what a business does. Our business, Dylan Minguez is here. He didn't know he was going to be painting, with crappy paint on the outside of a bar for the octopus that he created. You don't ever know what your constraints are, but man, did he make a really cool mural. And I think sometimes we just don't know, but I think sometimes when we work from home, some people think that we have an advantage, but still it's different. This whole thing is the COVID stuff or coronavirus, whatever, is different. So lots of small business owners, whether they're running creative agencies, they maybe struggle with all the responsibilities that fall on themselves. So that delegation point is really,
yes.
It is. So that's the difference between control and autonomy. Autonomy means you can make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Control means that you have to do everything. Right.
Right.
And there's really a difference, but it has to do with trust. You're building trust. And as you've said, that relationships are really important. Yes. I also believe that is as well. Like, I think that it is way more fun to have gotten somebody a job and help provide for what they want, because not everybody wants to be a entrepreneur, right? Some people want the ease of working for somebody else and then doing something on the side that's a passion, or doing something that they love for somebody else, and then it's just guaranteed they get a paycheck, right? Coming in. There's another part of the entrepreneur, which is the sales. It is the marketing. It is all that stuff. And as you have one business that's design, and then you have the other business that's really leading or guiding creative entrepreneurs. So they kind of go together. I think of us as designers. You say the front runners has 3 E's, 3 E's. Tell them what it is and tell why that works for both design and your clients as well as for creative entrepreneurs.
Yeah, they do. My businesses do kind of support each other. And I feel like I get a lot of fodder for writing and for speaking by working with clients. It's really great. It gives me perspective on how to speak to creative entrepreneurs, because I didn't just used to be one. I'm actively, working with clients and on projects. And so I'm experiencing the frustrations and the challenges that come from that. So the 3 E's of Frontrunners is to encourage people. And that's through stories, being really transparent and brutally honest about experiences I'm having actively, and not just things that I've already reached the mountaintop on. Sharing about failures and fears, and really sharing hope and empathy. So encouragement is a huge kind of hub of that wheel. And then equipping. I'm so passionate about teaching and taking people to new levels of understanding. It's very satisfying. That's something I get to do with my clients, because we're supposed to teach our clients and bring them to a new level of understanding of what we do and the value of branding, et cetera, et cetera. But I love doing that with people. And then empowering, which is kind of the combination application of both of those things in tandem. And that's where doing courses and workshops and consulting and mentoring and interacting face-to-face with people versus just putting out content. So it's encourage, equip, and empower. And those are things that all of us need. And some of us need them in different measures. You might be really, really good at the technical aspect of things, and you just need some dang encouragement, So I'm here for you,
So one of the other things I think is important, and to recognize again, is that you have experience. You've had experiences in those other things. You didn't just say, I don't want to do corporate, but you had really taken, you integrated in when you were inside a workplace, you talked to people, you became part of that team, and you had the experience, and you've had lots of experience working as a designer, and you've worked with a lot of creative entrepreneurs or other entrepreneurs for sure. So why those three things, you've kind of explained it. Is there
Mhm.
a short synopsis of why those have been placed heavily on your heart?
I think that I am very passionate about those three things because those are three things that I have needed myself in my own journey. And I think that's something that we'll all discover when we find something that's very, very fulfilling, is oftentimes because that was something that that was helpful and brought value to us individually. That when we get to share what helped us with someone else, then like that's a sweet spot. So that those three things are a sweet spot for me because I've needed encouragement, I've needed equipment, I love learning, and I've needed empowerment. I've needed people to invest in me and community, around me in my journey.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
All right. So this is where I kind of want us to do a little fairly quick role play.
do
So
it.
the question is, how do you help people understand what's at the heart of their business? Because I think that this is for any entrepreneur, any business owner.
Yeah.
I know that I've had a client, one client all my years, she was like, I don't like this. And I'm like, I I would just was like dumbfounded. And it was a family business. And I understand sometimes in a family business, but she did not want to do it. But she
Mhm.
felt like you were talking about golden handcuffs, that she just couldn't walk away and do the other things that she wanted to do.
Yeah.
So when when you're so how do you know? So what kind of conversation are you having with someone that, because some people don't even realize that there is a heart of their business,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or to touch to it, right? They're
Yeah.
just, is that a part of a conversation that you have with all of your clients that are, or is that something that is separate for just specific people who are really searching?
Yeah. So it's kind of a two different conversations. Like if I'm talking to a client that already has a business, um, a lot of the times they are doing what they are passionate about because to be an entrepreneur, like you have to be a little bit crazy because there are easier ways to make money. Let's be honest, right? So, and I always like acknowledge that to my clients, just like the bravery and courage it takes to be an entrepreneur is pretty awesome. And so that gives me so much respect for them. So a lot of the times with clients who kind of like, they already know that this is what they want to do and they want to build it, then it's just a matter of focusing, honing in on uh, the people. I mean, when we're talking about the heart of our business, the heart of your business will always connect to human beings. And I think
Mm.
that's a great litmus test for anything that we're doing, any marketing thing, any project that we're doing, anything we're pouring time, energy, or money into. It's at the heart of your business if it ultimately connects with a human being. That's what leads to fulfillment, right? Is knowing that you had an impact on somebody in a positive way. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like an existential way. It could literally be like making delicious food that makes someone happy. Like if you run a bakery, my wife loves to bake and she always says like that she's giving people happiness.
Mm.
So, you know, what you're doing should connect with a person in a fulfilling way. So then if you're kind of in the more sort of searching area and you're like, oh, what do I do with my life? Um, whenever I meet somebody, I always love to find out like what's their deepest passion, like if like there's the cliche question of like, if you could do anything and money wasn't an option, like what would you do? That's a great question to ask. Like I always like to ask people like, what have you always wanted to do? Sorry if you can hear the baby in the background.
Okay.
Like, yeah, what have you always wanted to do? Like, and sometimes people will be like, oh, I want to write a book. And I would say, well, what would you need to do to actually make that happen? They're like, oh, I never really thought about that. I guess I would need to like start writing. And so I'm like, yeah, like maybe you could do this. So like I like to try to like make little bridges for
Mhm.
people because those baby steps, it's the concept that we talked about in episode 1 of step 0, right? I like to kind of dig, what's the passion? What do you really find fulfilling? Like what brings you joy? What
What if
has to
they
happen?
can't connect it? What if they can't connect the thing that they've always wanted to do with the thing that
Yeah.
they actually are doing in their business? Do
Yeah,
you come across that?
it's hard. It's hard to see okay, here's what I love to do, but is there an actual career,
Mm-hmm.
that allows me to make enough money to keep doing that?
Yep.
Because that's the key, right?
That's what we're
Like,
going to talk about.
yeah, if you can make money doing what you love, then you can keep doing what you love. But if you can't make enough money, then you have to do something else, which is okay. But I think in the big scheme of things, you got to have a plan, be able to break that down. So I think that looking for examples, like what I did, looking for
Mm.
examples of other people that are doing similar things, like if you love certain podcasts, like maybe you love like murder mystery podcasts, but you're an accountant, then there's something there. There's a reason why you love that thing. So like going to your favorites, whether like
Mm.
you love movies or you love like podcasts or you love baking or you love working out, but it is what you're currently doing for a career connected with that in any way. And if
Mm.
it's not, then like how could you maybe make a weird hybrid that never exists before? Maybe you can become an accountant for bakers, you
Mm.
know? So like how can you take a skill set that you have and connect that, like merge it with something that brings you joy? Even something that's one of my favorite questions is like, what's the corniest thing that you love? I love asking people on my podcast that question. I think I even asked you that question, because it's really fun to find out what people nerd out about. There's something really special about our hobbies and our passions. Like for me, I am a huge fantasy nerd. I love Lord of the Rings. I'm always listening to audiobooks. Like I've probably gone through like 20 books this year. I do it while I'm working. Like I love Star Wars and I grew up like playing Pokemon and so I'm a pretty nerdy guy. Um, but I haven't yet found a way to like incorporate all of that into like my business, except for like fun references and emails that I send to the front runners email list and things like that. But like those elements of our nerdiness, I think can be another really fun way to identify, our passion. And I think the more that we bring that personality into our business, the more that our business can start to like align and feel fulfilling.
Right.
Yeah.
You're getting a lot of nerds unite, Maria says. And
Yeah.
so Paul's has a good point here, but knowing what you love isn't always so obvious. So sometimes when you
Yeah.
have somebody, that's the difference between the entrepreneur that's running the business that has
Yeah.
their why and
Yeah.
understands, and then the entrepreneur that is, or they want the person that wants to pivot. They don't
Yeah.
want to work for anybody else anymore. They want to start a
Yeah.
side project, but they don't know what they want to do. And Paul says, but knowing what you do, knowing what you love isn't always so obvious. We have to learn to see ourselves from above on a day to day.
Yeah.
For Paul, he was a physicist.
Wow.
He's Dr. Paul Nylander,
Wow.
right? Right? Physics. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, but he was doing graphic design on the side, like
Wow.
for fun.
Yeah.
So then he just went and did, even though he has his doctorate, he just went all in on
Wow.
design. But there is something that comes with that. Paul's story, your story, there's
Mm-hmm.
something that's sacrifice. And that's what a lot of people are not willing to do. So you said, hey, I'm going to sacrifice maybe some money
Mm-hmm.
because I'm going to work from home. That's going to
Yes.
be super important, but I'm not sacrificing time, because if you
Yeah.
did work for corporate, you might make more money, but you would
Right.
have given up time. So
Yes.
it's just about figuring out what you're willing to sacrifice. And if you
Yeah. What do
really,
you value?
if you really value people and relationships, then you absolutely have to have time to invest in other people, whether
Yeah.
that's your family or whether, other people, because I know that you invest in other people as well.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going back to this question. So focusing on the heart of a business. So
Mm-hmm.
what's the ideal? So when you're talking to an entrepreneur, do they already know? And then, because I feel like this is where front runners is, right?
Yeah.
You're like, you've made a decision, just
Yeah.
like the corporate office. Instead of doing corporate and focusing
Yeah.
on money, you were
Yeah.
like, nope, I'm not gonna sacrifice time with my family. That was
Yeah.
the big thing. There's other
Yeah.
things too, I'm
Yeah.
sure, but
Yep.
when is that a conversation that most entrepreneurs have already had, or is that sometimes that you have to, when they're at that pivot point?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us during this time are having these thoughts of, should I be doing this, or should I be doing this? And then we're at this kind of crossroads in,
Mm-hmm.
although we may love what we're doing, But I
Yeah.
mean, it might be hard for Dylan to go out and do a mural inside an office building, or maybe it's not, maybe it's a perfect time, right? But
Yeah.
when is it, or is this a conversation that you have with your customers or with the people in front runners?
Yeah, it's an ongoing conversation you have to have with yourself, right? I journal a lot, and that helps me to process my emotions and my desires. And I think it's really important for us to be self-aware. And I think that's what Paul was talking about. Like, you have to have that self-awareness, and that comes from asking yourself questions. A lot of times it can come from your fears, right? Your greatest fears. Like, if you get to the end of your life, what are you afraid that you didn't
Mm,
have time to do? What would be your regret if tomorrow you found out that you had cancer, right? And it was terminal or something, right? Like, some of those fears can be a great arrow pointing to the things that are really deep passions. And I feel like we have a responsibility to ourselves to pursue those things.
mhm,
And I think that, we have to, we talked about hobbies and things that bring us joy and stuff, and those can be an indicator. And I think that we really have to do a gut check on a pretty regular basis. Is like, is what I'm doing right now putting me on track to eventually get to those things that I want to get to? Because I think we have kind of a list of aspirational things that we want to do someday. I want to travel. I want to have a family. I want to have a home. I want to do this or that or this. I want to have a podcast. I want to write a book, XYZ. And then if you asked that person, well, like, when do you want to have those goals by? And they're like,
mm,
I don't know, eventually when I'm older. Like, well, why? Like, why does it need to take you 20 years to write a book? Why does it need to take you 5 years to write a podcast? Why do you need, all of this equipment to start a YouTube channel?
mm,
You have a phone. So, like, challenging the assumptions that we make
mm.
up, in our minds, that are these obstacles that don't really exist. Like, there's real life obstacles. Like, if you're, in a wheelchair, maybe you can't be a sprinter, but what could you do? Like, there is always an alternative that can still be in alignment, right? With what is fulfilling to you. So those are good questions to ask. Yeah.
So one of the things I love about the front runners community, or any community like this, is that it is hard to challenge assumptions. Like
Yeah.
Paul said, when you're in the middle of it,
Yes.
it's
You need
really
perspective.
difficult. So sometimes you need perspective from
Hmm.
outside in, which is really difficult for sometimes for people when they're struggling, or when they're in the thick of it.
Yeah.
It's also really nice to have a group. Then somebody else they've asked you a question that you didn't even know that was a question, right? So I think
Yeah.
the power of community in this,
Yeah.
having a friend or a mentor to be able to be open and share these things, I think with is really important. So
Yeah.
right now in your business, you have your design business and you have front runners.
Hmm.
You have made a decision. I right, or I'm going to ask. You've said that you decided to focus on the heart of your business, right?
Yeah.
Instead of pursuing money.
Hmm.
Like, who's paying the bills then, buddy? Right? I know you're the
Yeah.
breadwinner, so
Oh yeah.
it can't be like, hey mom, dad, I'm coming back for some, right? So where does that, because you're not skimping on your responsibilities, right?
Nope.
But
Nope.
where do you make that decision of, okay, well, I've done this for the business or the
Hmm.
design and my clients,
Hmm.
now I'm going to stop? It's kind of like doing the corporate,
Yeah.
and then doing that contract for a
Yeah.
certain amount of time. So
Yeah.
can you talk us through that?
You're making me think of a really cool concept from a book called Real Artists Don't Starve by Jeff
Mm,
Goins. Have you read that book?
I think
It's
so.
fantastic. So, like, one of the things he says, like, if you're an artist, then you are a business, right? But the idea was this idea of patrons, that back in the days of, like, the Renaissance, like Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci, they had patrons, like whether it was the Pope or some other rich merchant family or something that would pay them a living to do art. And one concept that he proposes is that you can treat your job like it's your patron, treat your
Mhm.
day job like it's your patron, treat your clients like they're your patron. That gives you the money that allows you to do your art, to do the things that are creative to
Mm.
you. And so I think that's a great transitional mindset to have when you're starting something. Because right now, front runners does not pay my bills. Design does. Like working for my clients pays my bills. And it's like, it's way over here in terms of the balance, because front runners is a new company. And whenever I put the pressure on it to like, oh dude, this has to take off in like 6 months, it takes my mindset off the heart of it. And it's not fun anymore. It's not fulfilling anymore. And then I have to recalibrate and like, okay, I'm going to put more of that financial responsibility back on my design business, because that's where the bread and butter comes from. And that frees me up to continue to love my passion, which will eventually turn into a business that can support. And then I can kind of like shift the scales again to where, once front runners is generating enough income to where that's the primary, then I can taper down. So it's like this sort of overlapping transition. But right now, my design business is the patron of my passion business.
I love that. And I also
Yeah.
love that there has to be the overlap.
Yes.
But because when you flip them in if you flip them and then just pursue money, and I've talked to people like that, and they're like, oh, but at some point, I think when you have these conversations, sometimes people, I think they have they want to help other people, but really they're just trying to get out of something. So it's money first. Like they have it flipped. And I think it's a really conscious choice to continually every day say, nope, I'm focusing on the heart, the heart of it. I know that it'll get me there, but I'm going to focus on the heart of it. Because I think some people say the right thing, but you can tell that they're pursuing just the money on it. So it doesn't have as much weight, or as, my husband, John, will ask me, he's like, oh, well, would you still do this if we won the lottery? I mean, I'm like, we don't even play the lottery. So, whatever, I guess. We don't have that in Alabama, but, we live 3 miles from Mississippi. So I guess we could play, but we don't. But I was like, yes, I would still do this. These are things. And I think that's where you can kind of see if your alignment is that if you would still do this without getting paid. And what is it? What is the payoff? I think you have to know what that payoff is. And you've said it is fulfillment. It's about, you said, I wrote it down, making an impact, impacting others in a positive way. And it can be from small things to big things. You also said the heart of a business always connects to humans. And that human connection is hard to monetize, right? That's a struggle for me, because I'm like, well, I feel guilty, right? Like, why I wouldn't want. And then I love to mow grass. I don't know if that's what I told you was my weird thing, but I love to mow grass. Now, granted, if I was mowing grass 40 hours a week, I might not like it, but it's like riding a go-kart, people, and then I can listen to a book. It's a win-win. Yeah. It's like vacuuming. I love to vacuum. So to me, it's like, okay, if you understand, but how do you stay on? And again, this is where community really comes in, because you have that accountability. Are you on track? Is this something that is going to, for me, one of my big things is that if I'm making money, somebody else should be making money. And that's really kind of a hands down. If it's my clients, I don't want to fleece them, right? If they have paid me, I want their business to succeed. I want to make sure I'm doing all my research and doing everything that could have everything. I want them to make money also. If I'm in affiliate partnership with somebody, if I'm making money from placing somebody or helping somebody, I want to be able to, it's not enough if it's just me making money. I've actually struggled with actually asking for money in that same regard. So when that comes in, that's I do think we should be able to make money at the things that we're really good at, or that we're passionate about. But I also think that it can, if you're only doing it to get up the big yacht or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Then that might not be, it's not going to be long lasting enough to keep it going.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, there's so much in there to unpack that we could do a whole other podcast episode on our like perceptions on money. I think that we have to ask ourselves, why do I feel bad wanting, money? right? Because your business needs to make money to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, I have no problem charging people money because I know that what I'm giving them is good and worth it.
Mm-hmm.
I never feel bad, paying money to a movie theater. Like, I don't feel bad them charging money because I love going to the movie theaters, right?
Or
So
a plumber
people,
or anything.
yeah,
Like,
like,
I do
well,
not ever,
but
I want my air conditioning fixed. I
right,
don't have any problems. Please come fix
yeah,
the
yeah,
air conditioning,
like,
right?
because it's worth it to you,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that there's only a conflict in, well, for me, I'm only going to speak for me. There's only a conflict in me asking for money when something inside of me doesn't feel that the amount of money I'm asking for is worth what I'm providing. So rather than me saying, oh, well, like, I'm going to shortchange myself and not be able to afford a
Mm-hmm.
living, I'm going to challenge myself and say, oh, how can I make it worth what I'm asking for? So then I rise to the challenge versus pulling back and not growing through that. Because
Mm-hmm.
we have to grow past those fears. Otherwise, they will remain like an invisible limiting obstacle to us, right? So this is really important because you do have to kind of be about the money, in the sense that the money is fuel. Like, if you have no fuel, you cannot keep pursuing your passion, and you have to do something else. And the more time you're spending, working, retail to pay your bills, the less time you can make your music, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I want to spend my life doing the thing I'm passionate about, I have to find a way to support myself doing that thing. And so I have to get past my own preconceived notions of what it means to really, provide value to someone in exchange for money. And so if I can get past that, and I can convince myself, like, if I'm asking these people to pay X amount of dollars for an online course, then I need to feel good about that number. And I can only feel good about that number if what I know that I'm giving them is worth many times over than that. And if I feel confident that it is, then yeah, I don't have a problem asking for money. I don't have a problem charging my clients for money, because I'm giving them a service that is
Mm-hmm.
going to, pay dividends to them. Someone might pay me $10,000 for a project, but if I know that it's going to net them $150,000, $200,000 over the course of the next, 5 years, wow, like, they've got a huge ROI. So like, what's the ROI of going to the movies? Well, joy and wonder and all this kind of stuff. So we have to think in terms of value when we're running into that money obstacle, because that money obstacle, that fear of not wanting to be perceived as greedy, which that's how we're perceiving ourselves, not how other people are perceiving us. Like,
Yeah.
we have to get past that so that we can keep doing what we love, right? Otherwise, we will self-sabotage.
But then there's that other, you know what I'm talking about, when you're so hungry that you're like,
Oh man.
but I think if there's
Yeah.
3 phases of a business, like when you go, you're like, I just got to make enough. And it's the desperation, right?
Yeah.
And I think other people can hear that and see, and that's when they haven't overlapped, right? There
Yeah.
is no overlap, and that is the
Yeah.
cushion, right?
Yep.
Where if you overlap, there's no, it's like leaving your son home alone, 18 months old. You have no overlap, right? You're like,
Right.
hey,
You're all in.
my wife was supposed to get here at 4. It's 3:55. What am I going to do? Am I going
Yeah.
to, restrain him to a chair? Like, you're going to be late, right? But I'm just
Yeah. I
trying to
don't think
make
it's
a
healthy for us to put ourselves in a corner like that.
right.
Yeah.
But that's where that overlap is
Yeah. You
so
have to have
cool.
that. You have to have that crossover. Otherwise, what you're doing is you're going to put your passion, your dream, in a position that is not fair to it. And you're going to put it in an environment where it can't grow. There's too much pressure, right? Like, there's just too much.
The
You're
sun
putting
is
too much
too bright, right?
Yeah, like,
It's a full sun.
if you're trying to grow a
Tomatoes.
community, if I'm trying to grow a front runners community,
Sure.
right? But I'm not taking on any new design clients, I'm going all in. Then what kind of pressure is that putting on these people that I don't even know yet? They don't even know me. We haven't built a relationship. We haven't built trust yet. I haven't put out enough content for them to even know like what I'm about, right? That's too much pressure that I'm putting on the people that I'm trying to reach, the people I'm passionate about reaching, because I didn't manage my own life. So I think that there's a level of responsibility where we have to like kind of nurture and cultivate this seedling of a passion Um, you, and a great way to do that is to have some kind of an external thing that is separate from it, that, alleviates some of that pressure. Now, I know that some of us are in a position where, like, maybe you're a freelancer and like this is what you do and you're passionate about it. Then maybe that just means that the types of clients that you pick up, maybe you can't be as picky in the beginning. Maybe you
Mm,
eventually want to just serve, ballet companies, right? But maybe you have to work with a construction company in the meantime. And so, like, the concept of having some bread and butter is really great, because even though it might feel like, oh, this isn't what I love, like, it's giving you the ability to pursue what you love it without that unhealthy pressure, which would eventually sabotage you and keep you from accomplishing it in the first place.
yeah, but sometimes there are some gems of information from one industry to another that
Heck
would have
yeah.
never overlapped
Yeah.
had you not been part of that thing. Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
They do this here. Maybe we could try it here and see if it works.
Yeah.
And then you get more of the work that you want to do. So, okay.
I'll,
Oh, go
I'll give
ahead.
you a super quick, great example of that.
Okay.
I've had seasons where my design business was so slow, I had to do random odd jobs. Like, there was a couple years back, this is very recently, like maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, it just was dead for whatever reason, because that can happen sometimes, where like multiple clients, it just lines up dead. I was painting concrete, and I was doing random construction. I was ripping siding off of houses and picking up nails out of gravel. Why? Because I had to provide for my family, right?
Mm,
And it was very humbling, because this is coming from someone that is, oh, I've worked with XYZ client, I've had this position, I've had, really big projects and stuff. But, what was more important to me was like the ultimate goal of providing and stuff. So it challenged my identity, it
mm,
challenged my pride. What was really cool is when you go through those kind of, it feels like a detour, it challenges your identity, and it forces you to not put your identity in what you do, which is so healthy for when you want to build something you're passionate about, because
mm,
it's really easy to just like bury our whole identity in it, and then like fear comes in, and like you just get too apprehensive, you don't want to take the risks that you need to be successful. But when your identity is separate, and you know that like who you are, minus all of these things that you're good at, minus things you've accomplished, minus people knowing who you are, and all this stuff, then it gives you the freedom to experiment, which is
mm,
a theme that we're talking about in these podcasts. And it gives you freedom to take risks. It gives you freedom to try things out, because you know that that's not who I am. It's something that I'm doing, right?
mhm.
And so in those seasons, like when I was painting concrete, I was listening to podcasts and I was getting clarity on like what the heck I really wanted to do. And honestly, it convicted me, and it made me realize I have not been very good at community. I haven't been very good at like reaching out and connecting with other people in my industry for, lots of different reasons, but I thought that I could kind of do it all on my own. And since
Mm,
then, it really challenged me to grow as an individual, as a business person in my design business and in my front runners business, to connect with people, and to not think that I could be like Superman, and think that I could like, while you're blazing your own trail, like you're not blazing your own trail alone.
no,
It's yours
absolutely.
in that it's unique to you, but
Mhm.
you're not alone, and you can't make it alone. And so those really hard times have really challenged me in that. And so it's not really a detour.
It's not. I totally agree, and I'm very thankful that you are willing to share that, because some people would say, "Oh, that was a failure. I can't believe he shared that." But really, it's in those where there's real growth. So we
Failures are
have,
great.
yeah, yeah, it's that's how we learn. That's experimenting and experience. All right, so your faith plays a big role in your business. Is it
It
hard to be
does.
open about your faith? And how does, well, we'll get to the next. This is the last two questions.
Sure. No, it's not. You know why?
So
Because
how does
it's,
your faith play a role?
yeah. So my faith plays a role. So I'm a Christian, um, and my faith plays a role a lot in, I think, the morality of how I conduct business. Um, I I always try to approach it in a way that I am serving people first. I'm not looking out for my best interests. I'm always making sure that I'm serving people, I'm doing what's right. I'm not taking shortcuts. I'm not trying to swindle or lie or cheat. There's, things, we're always presented with opportunities that are tempting, that might feel easier in the short run, but ultimately in the long run, I feel like it would lead to us to go, oh man, that really wasn't the right decision. So it really helps me with making moral decisions, decisions that would affect my conscience. But also, I think that it just informs my attitude, and it informs how I genuinely care about people. Like, I really genuinely care about people because my faith has impacted me in such a way that it's helped me through so much in my life, that I have a desire to help other people, through challenges in their life, even if they're clients and their challenge is, I need to help grow my business. Like, I have the perspective of, you're not just trying to grow your business. Your business is what provides for your family and provides you the ability to be with your kids and to do things that, are fulfilling to you as a person. So it helps me have that perspective to trace it back to the human being.
So Paul has a good thing. So morality, well put. He said ultimately non-denominational.
Yeah.
So I also if we're digging in, because there are lots of people who aren't Christians that are
Sure.
also all those things. They're not swindling people, right?
Yeah.
They're very, but so there has to have been something in your life, and for me, there's specific things as well. But I think for me, it has to do with other people, but it also has to do with hope. Like there's a hope, and I believe that there's that God is in control and that I'm not.
Yes.
And although I try to be in control a lot of the time, right? That is a constant battle. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah.
But there is a huge relief for me in my relationship with God, is that I know that he knows everything I've done and everything that I've done that's terrible, right?
Yeah.
Not that I've swindled anybody, but I definitely have not been great.
Yeah.
And so I guess it's like, and it's a very real relationship that I have. And I think you have that similar. And I think that's what compels you to have these really intense and deep conversations and relationships with other people who also could be struggling in some of these, like, what do I do? Is a conscious decision, or do I have an overlap, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
I feel like I believe that there's a greater purpose to the work that I'm doing. That the work that I'm doing as a creative person is not just transactional, and it's not just to serve the business needs, but I really feel like I love serving the human needs. I love helping I love my clients feeling encouraged. I've had clients where we had our first meeting. This happened last year. We had a really long conversation. I was just like asking like just genuine questions about their pain points and their fears and like things, their obstacles. And then when we were done, she was like, this felt like a therapy session. And I'm like, oh man, that's so satisfying to me, And I feel like the foundation that I have in my beliefs, it gives me compassion for people at a level that it just goes beyond what I think that maybe I would naturally have as a person. So yeah, that's a big part of it is it really gives me a heart for people's emotions and what they're going through and empathy. And it gives me a foundation to stand on for those things.
Something else that I see that you do with just from all of our conversations, not that we have had lots of conversations on Marco Polo.
Yeah.
But you value time. Time is what you give with your family, but you also, that you take the time to ask and are interested in the genuine of all those people in the office. Hey, how's it going? It would start with a just normal, but it goes to a little bit deeper, and that you're taking something deeper than maybe somebody else is, because you value that person and the time that you get to spend with that person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because maybe a lot of clients or vendors, right, for Jody the nail salon. I don't know, probably not Jody the nail salon, but whatever, right? Jody the nail salon never felt like anybody took the time to ask her some of those questions, even though her nail salon is providing, it's 6 families. She's
Yeah.
her family plus 6 others, right? So she's has a business, and with that business she's able to provide. And I think that that's the other thing for me in my faith, is that everybody's important. And so
Yeah.
when people are like, oh, I gotta get 1,000 more likes, and I'm like, well, it's never, for me, the podcast has never been about numbers. I mean, I guess because I don't ever check them. If nobody showed up, I would notice. I promise. So I really appreciate all of y'all being here and staying. And every week, it really makes a huge difference. But like, if you're listening and you're on YouTube or on wherever you're getting your podcast, send me a message. Send Nathanael a message. I think that those are the things that's when we know what we're doing has an impact. Now, that's the difference between his podcast and mine. I'm doing it live, so I can see if you people are here, right? It's rough when it's just when I feel like nobody comes. There was only one time that happened because I forgot to hit broadcast, and so clearly nobody would be showing up. I was like, man, my mom didn't even come, and of course my mom's like, I was there. I stayed for 30 minutes and then nothing ever happened, right? But it was because I messed up, but I felt it. I felt what it was like when nobody showed up. But for me, if one person, if just my mom showed up, or, Amy Lyon, she always comes, so I'm super thankful. But if Amy Lyon showed up, that's enough for me. Like, then
Yeah.
maybe it's something that Amy needed to hear, or that we needed to have a conversation together. And I think that that's where it isn't about the money. It's about, Ashley will ask me, when I was thinking about, should I keep going after 5 years? And she said, what do you get out of it?
Yeah.
And I said, I love the conversations. I'm excited. I've learned something about the industry, or I've learned something specific about something else that now I can grow because I love to learn. And
Yeah.
she's like, then you need to keep doing it, because it is still, you're still getting something out of it personally, but it still has a chance to impact somebody else. And a lot of people have tried to talk me out, not Nathaniel, but a lot of people have they were like, oh, well, why do you do it live? You can't, or you don't edit it, so it's not as professional, you don't, whatever. But to me, that's just these raw conversations. But
Yeah.
that's I'm okay with that, and I appreciate you guys being a part of it. So Nathaniel, I can't thank you enough. I think you've given us a ton to think about. Do you have any last words before I tell them what next week's going to be about?
Oh man, I'm just really grateful. I think that there's something inside of each one of us that we've maybe been waiting on for a long time. And maybe we haven't yet put a timeline on that yet. And I would just encourage you guys to ask yourself, like, is where I am at right now, is my current trajectory going to result in me being where I want to be when I want to be there? And if it's not, then it's a great opportunity to evaluate where you're at and find out, what is the smallest possible step that I can take in that new direction to have the business that I want to have, or to do the thing that I find to be fulfilling. And this doesn't, these concepts don't necessarily have to just apply to your business. Your business might literally be your bread and butter, and you're cool with that, but I think there's something inside of each of us. Each of us has a voice, and each of us, what we have to offer, it's not for everybody, but it is for somebody. And I think that, if we find that belief within ourselves that I have a voice, I have something to say, whether that's creating artwork, doing a podcast, becoming a personal trainer, like, you can fill in the gap. There's something in there that is an unfulfilled passion. And our life can end up just being a lot more beautiful when we give ourselves permission to have those things, instead of feeling like we have to check a whole lot of boxes first before taking that first step.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right. So just so y'all know, you can follow Nathaniel at, here's all the links. Nathanael, Nathanael, Is that an odd way of, is that the normal way?
It's from the Bible.
Okay. So it's
Yeah.
the right way. I'm just kidding. Clanton, Clanton. But it
Yep.
is unique, right? It's a
Yeah, it's not very common.
Okay. I'm like, well, I don't know.
People
I don't
always
spell
misspell
well
it.
anyway. So I'm like, oh, I'm sure I'm just
Yeah.
been misspelling it all these years for all these other people. So NathanaelClanton.com and then
That's my portfolio.
Frontrunners.life.
Frontrunners.life.
And then Instagram, Nathanael.Clanton, and then runners with an S.
Frontrunners life. Yeah.
And then you can find all these if you go to rechargingyou.com/341.
In the show notes.
$3.99 if you want both, but there will be a few different. We talked about different books today, so I have those to write down. I actually wrote a ton of notes. I did red on the first one and blue on today.
Awesome.
And next week we are going to do a community chat, and it's going to be focused. It's going to be a little different. Last time I just had everybody come on, and this time I think I'm going to limit it to 10 people. So if you want to be on there, respond back to me. And it's going to be about, what are you discovering about yourself? And my friend Chris Martin is going to be on there also, but he's just going to be one of the many. So you guys just need to email me and say, hey, I want to be on there. I have something to add. What am I discovering in this time about yourself? So I know that I think it's been a very, it's a weird time, but it has definitely been a time of discovering things that we didn't know, boundaries we didn't know. Like Nathanael didn't know he could do it without his parents or his wife's parents coming over and helping with 2 babies, right? All the things you learn about your boundaries, and that they maybe weren't as rigid as you thought, right, in this time. And then maybe you're discovering something specific. I'd love to have you as part of the group chat. So we just need you to have earbuds and a camera is all. So I would love to have, and then I will just put you on the thing, and then we may open it up for everybody in the last 30 minutes. But then that way it can be a little bit focused, but it's still us. So again, email me at Diane@rechargingyou.com or whatever, Diane@designrecharge.org, whatever you want, either one, I get it. I have way too many email addresses, that's for sure. Okay, so, but email me so that I have your email so that I can put you on the thing so that you can come on. All right. And I don't remember what the next thing I was going to say is, but I want you guys to check out Nathanael's podcast. How often does it come out?
Normally when I'm not buried in children, I was doing it every week. So right now there's 20 episodes on there, and they're awesome. They alternate between solo episodes that I'm doing and having guests. And I've got all different kinds of entrepreneurs from all different kinds of backgrounds. And we just get into, real stories, talking about, real life challenges that we have in our journeys and how we're learning and growing through those things. Yeah. And you can find that on Spotify, on iTunes, and Frontrunners with Nathanael Clanton, Frontrunners podcast with Nathanael Clanton.
Frontrunners with an S.
Yep, with an S.
Perfect.
There's more than one of us.
But Frontrunners, that's the one you want. So thank you guys so much. I hope you guys will be part of the community chat next week when we're talking about what we've been discovering about ourselves in this time. And I will see you guys next week. I wanted to tell you that I have a new goal that's critical that you help me with it. I would like to get to 40 reviews on iTunes. Even if you don't like it, I'd like you to put it in there because that can always improve. So if you could do that for me, that would be killer. So I'm trying to get to 40 reviews. I should probably know how many I have. It's way under 40, I'm pretty sure. So could you help me? Could you help me by typing, going to iTunes, giving it a review? That would be super, super, super helpful. Anyway, help me get to that goal of 40. Let's see how fast I can do it. Hopefully before the end of the summer. Maybe before the end of June. That would be killer. I'm going to be uncomfortable. But I think I could be uncomfortable and I could ask you again and again every week to do this. All right, so you go to iTunes, rate it, whatever star you think it is, or no star. I don't know. Can you give it a no star rating? I don't know. But that'd be interesting. I would definitely understand what you were saying I also wanted to tell you that you can always reach out to me you can DM me. I actually respond to those. I would love to connect with you on Instagram and Twitter. Instagram a little faster than Twitter is, but on Instagram at Design Recharge. And then on LinkedIn, you can go to Recharging You. I think it's recharging-you. You can look me up at Diane Gibbs, DianeGibbs, right? So Recharging You this is the company. We help you by providing training and coaching, and I guide creative entrepreneurs to reach their business goals and their creative goals. So it's a home for the Design Recharge show, which you're listening to right now, and it's interactive. Some of you guys might not know that you can actually come live and participate, which is killer to me, and it wouldn't be the same if I couldn't do it live. I love when y'all are helping me with questions and asking things and interest and having your own side conversations in the chat. I love it because it is a community and it's something that we do together, and people join from all over the world. So I always ask people if you can come early. I usually get my guest on about 10 minutes early, and then I hit broadcast about 5 minutes early, and then I tell them where you're coming in from. You type it in there and I try to memorize it, and sometimes I'm really good at it and sometimes I'm not, but I try, and because I think that you're crucial to this community and I want to help you. And if there's somebody that you want me to interview or a topic that you want to be covered, I'd love to do it. We do work about 4 months in advance of what our schedule is. But it's something that I can implement for the end of the year for sure. So if you want to come and join, it's super easy. All you have to do is go to rechargingyou.com, and there's a thing that says join the family. You can also go to rechargingyou.com/sign up, no hyphen, nothing, just SIGNUP, right? Yeah, sign up, and then it'll give you the thing to fill it out and give me your name and your email address, and then you'll get the link every week, and then you can come live and participate. So I'd love for you to be at the next live recording, which our next live recording is special. I talked about it earlier, so I'm not going to talk about it again, but I also wanted to remind you that the Power Station is a mastermind group that I run, and right now we have two. We have a night group and a day group, and I know that you want to be a focused, confident entrepreneur with clear direction. And in order to do that, you're going to need to know how to get out of your head and learn from other creative entrepreneurs. The problem is that you're a solopreneur with limited knowledge and experience. We all are, right? That's a solopreneur is somebody who's doing it on their own and they haven't expanded yet, or you have expanded, but now you need to expand a little bit more. So the problem is that you're a solopreneur with limited knowledge and limited experience because there's only so many hours in the day. But we don't normally know what our next steps are or they need to be, and it makes you feel uncertain and alone. So we believe at Recharging You, me and Ashley and any of my interns, right, and just the community, we believe that every entrepreneur should be supported and challenged and encouraged as they grow their business. And I understand how overwhelming and demanding building a creative business can be because I've been growing mine for 17 years. I've been a designer for 24, and I've been growing my business since 2003. So here's how the group works. I listen carefully to your goals and your struggles. I help you state those goals. It's to help you create smart goals, not like, oh, that's really ingenious. No, it's more like specific, measurable, actionable. I don't think that's right. And I can't remember what the A is. R is realistic and T is time-based because it's a 3-month group. The second thing I do is work with you to identify patterns and I unlock opportunities. This is also something that I do when I do just private coaching. But then I also am walking with you through this transformation process, through this struggle. I'm walking with you through this Grand Canyon that you're having to walk through to help you reach your business goals. Or maybe you're shifting and you're trying to find a style, so it's more of a creative goal. Whatever that is, it's totally doable. You can join the waitlist and find out more about it at rechargingyou.com/coaching/powerstation-learn-more. But if you want it, it's just below on the video. Or if you're listening audibly on your whatever device, Spotify or whatever, it's down there in the description so you can check it out. So I'd love, again, for you to help me meet my goal of 40 reviews by the end of June. If we can do it earlier, that'd be even better. They don't have to be super long. People really fast. My favorite way to build websites is with Elementor. If you don't know that, I am making new content all the time for not for Elementor. They don't probably care, but I love them. So I'm trying to make videos that help. So check it out. It's on the same channel on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. If not, go to Design Recharge on YouTube, and then you'll see the playlist that's Elementor or web design, or I don't remember what the playlist is called. I probably should know. And you know what? Another thing that I've been able to use that has like, holy moly, where was this thing? Where was this thing? So many times I have bought video templates or music. Holy moly, music's expensive too. Not just stock photography, right? I found Envato, and they have a subscription for their elements, and it is awesome. And I love the diversity that they have. They have age, race, gender, but again, it's unlimited downloads for a year. I love it. If you use this link, again, this to me was unheard of. And the quality of the graphics or the templates, or there's WordPress themes and there's fonts and there's, I mean, a ton of stuff. Unheard of deal. If you go to bit.ly/D R, that's Elementor. Elementor. If you want the Envato, let me give you that one. bit.ly/ENVATO, D for Design Recharge, not for doctor. Anyway, I'm reading 2 books right now that I probably will finish this weekend. Malcolm Gladwell is absolutely one of my favorite authors. I'm reading Talking to Strangers, or I'm listening to it, right? On Audible, I can take notes. It's amazing. I can do audio notes. Somehow Siri hears me better through the Audible app than she does when I'm talking to anybody else. But Audible has changed my business. It's changed my life because I'm able to consume more books. I'm a very, very slow physical reader, but I do take notes in the Audible app. It may not be everybody's cup of tea, but I like to do it while I'm working if I can. And I'd love for you to get a free trial. You get 1 book and a 30-day free trial. Now, for me, a book is more than $15, right? Normally. I mean, I don't know if I've paid $15 for a book anywhere recently. They're like $30 or $25 or whatever. But every month I can get a new book for $15. It's like $14.99. That's the gold subscription. Then sometimes they give you deals. You can do 3 books for $33. So it's 3 credits. Each month I get 1 credit. 1 credit is the $15 a month. It's unbelievable. And I've been a member for over 10 years. I read a lot of books like this. So if you want to get that, check it out at audibletrial.com/design recharge. And then again, if you're in this bucket and you need to learn, but you don't have enough money to do Skillshare, you can get 2 months free of Skillshare Premium if you go to bit.ly/Diane Gibbs, DIANEGIBBS. 2 B's, 1 N. There we go. Just so you know, some of these are affiliate links. So I get a little piece of the pie, but it doesn't cost you anymore. So I hope I will see you next week. Again, don't forget, email me if you want to, or reply to the email. If you are on the list, reply to the email and say, hey, I want to talk about what I'm discovering about myself during this sequestered time, right? Or our sabbatical from anybody but our family. So I want to hear that. We're going to have 10 people on. We're going to talk about it. Chris Martin's going to be on as well. And I can't wait to see you.